Hello, and welcome back to the #1 survival guide of the cylinder. And today, we shall venture into the frozen tundra of the far north. As you looked out onto the frozen hills of the tundra, you began to see something hopping in the distance. It was a thorned jackalope. Thorned jackalopes are omnivores that eat a variety of insects, seasonal flowers, and root vegetables during the summer and late spring. But in the winter, they often have to stoop down to eating scraps of dead animals and patches of lichen. Their spines and horns, however, are used in the winter to fight off against other scavenger animals. You make it past the hills and find yourself in a permafrost-riddled labyrinth of plateaus. And as you looked out into the distance, you weren't quite sure at first, but it began to look like something was moving extremely fast in some kind of herd through the tundra. It was a herd of woolly rhinos, or otherwise known as by the locals, the great snow beasts. Woolly rhinos are one of the largest non-carnivorous species out here on the tundra, and have almost no predators. While the great snow beast looks like an animal that wouldn't particularly be able to run very fast, they can actually get up to 51 miles an hour if confronted with one of their few predators. And when you combine that with the fact that they live in herds of up to 100 individuals, it makes sense as to why most of their habitats are extremely compacted, flat plateaus of ice and snow. As for what the snow beasts eat, they have a varied diet of various different species of moss and lichen, as well as grass, seasonal root vegetables, and other different species of grass. On the other side of the hill, you notice a smaller herd of mammals, with a trail of footprints leading towards them. It was a small herd of tundra wanderers. Tundra wanderers are a close relative to modern-day mammoths and elephants. Tundra wanderers come from a lineage of mammals that existed thousands of years ago, and were almost entirely wiped out by a sudden change in climate. And the tundra wanderers are some of the only ones left. And some even note that their calls are extremely mournful sounding, almost implying that these creatures have somehow remembered that their entire family tree was entirely wiped out. As for what the tundra wanderers eat, they are known to be entirely herbivorous, eating only different types of moss, lichen, grass, and seasonal flowers called lotus poppies, a type of red lotus-shaped flower that grow in mass fields throughout late spring and summer. During these times, they will excrete tons of orange, sticky, sugary pollen that the tundra wanderers are particularly attracted to, also making them an important pollinator for these plants. You continue for a long ways past the plateaus and find yourself at a creek. But slowly, you begin to notice something down the river. It appeared to be multiple large, seemingly carnivorous creatures tearing open the carcass of a snow beast. It was a pack of northern hyenas. Northern hyenas are an extremely aggressive, relentless, and stealthily deadly hyena. They're especially aggressive during the winter, as prey is more scarce, and they must do whatever they can to obtain food. As for what they specifically eat, they pretty much hunt anything they think they can kill, including a human. You tried to avoid the hyenas, but unfortunately, they spotted you and gave chase. But luckily, you were fairly certain they had lost you in the river canyon you had been running in. But just to be sure, you ran a couple extra miles just in case, finding yourself now in this sort of gravelly beach littered with patches of lichen and snow. Then, further down the beach, he noticed a large bird fishing in the river. It was a great northern pelican. The northern pelican is a true fisherman and mainly eats fish. It uses its spear-like beak to crack through the ice and bring up fish that it will then eat or use to feed to its children. And on the topic of its children, the northern pelican typically makes nests in high-up places near water, whether that be a simple river or even the coast. The northern pelican is also considered to be a symbol of wisdom and patience amongst local tribes. You kept walking for another couple of miles, until eventually you came across a very strange geologic structure at the base of the mountain. It was covered in fields of red flowers, which is extremely strange as that doesn't happen this time of year. You found it just interesting enough to investigate. As you got closer, it got even weirder, as the middle of the structure seemingly had some kind of large pool of warm water, almost tropical-like, with tons of potentially endemic species swimming around in the water that you had absolutely no hope of ever identifying. It was such a perfect oasis from the tundra. Too perfect. You puzzled yourself over what this structure could be. A volcano? A hydrothermal vent somehow located on land? But none of the options sounded that plausible. Until a massive shadow began to loom over you. It was in fact not perfect, as you have entered the den of a King of the North. Kings of the North use their immense firepower to burn massive holes through the permafrost. They will then begin to build a structure in the middle, somewhat of a smokestack, made out of clay, rocks, and dirt. They will then lay their eggs inside, and seeing as how dragons are impervious to flame, they will set the entire inner structure ablaze to keep their children warm inside, which over time creates a microclimate where flowers that would normally only ever bloom in summer and late spring bloom the entire year, which the dragon uses as bait to cause grazing animals such as tundra wanderers and other such animals to be attracted to the oasis, where they will then be eaten by the dragon. These are also the only carnivores in the area known to be able to take out the great snow beasts, and local tribes see these creatures as the god of death and deception. As for a way to slay such a beast, the wings are a viable option. However, you must be a very skilled archer, as these creatures are extremely fast and very maneuverable. Now, a much better strategy would be to attack its neck pouch with either a spear or a longsword, anything you can reach far enough and be able to stab with. As for a reason why its neck pouch is a good option, is because it exudes so much energy and uses so much firepower from that organ that having scales there actually hinders it more than if it didn't. So, it makes it the most exposed part of its body other than its wings. Unfortunately, you encountered this creature on the low ground, and you did not have any ranged weapons. So, you were burnt to a crisp, ending your life there, and this chapter of the Survival Guide.